This is Tomorrow Girl versus Kamen America. This is the first volume. There are two volumes. I only have the first one, so I'm doing a review of the first one. And this is from Ben Dunn. Of course, Kamen America is the creation of Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini under the label Iconic Comics. I've reviewed all of the Kamen comic books, did an overview for the first 9 volumes, did a review of the first 10. So I am a big fan of Kamen America. Do not have any experience with Tomorrow Girl. And to read this book, really don't need any experience with either of these characters. Although this is a pretty simple story. Ben Dunn is the artist, and he came up with the plot. This is written and lettered by Alfred Perez, and the coloring is done by Shantuma, if I'm getting that correctly. And visually, this is a pretty nice experience. It's not the best art. Some of the line, or I'd say the line work is very thick. So this does feel more American comic book than you would be used to in seeing a depiction of Carly, or Kamen America, I should say, because most of the Kamen America art takes cues from manga. And I would say this is definitely a classic comic book style. It definitely isn't the best in terms of American comic book art, but it certainly is serviceable. The panel layouts make sense. Everything flows together pretty well, and it's colored nice. It's colored and lettered quite nicely. And this tells a pretty simple story. You have Kamen America and Tomorrow Girl clash into each other. They have this antagonistic meeting at first, but then they band together to take down these galactic Amazonians that come to the planet to harvest all the energy of men. It has that clear setup. The stakes get raised, it gets resolved, and then you have the setup for the next issue. So it's a classic comic book plot involving superheroes, science fiction, even got a little bit of magic mixed in. So I definitely think it's a good story. It's, like I said, it's very simplistic. There are some references to some of Carly's escapades, but you really don't need to know either of these characters to get into this book, because it tells a pretty, like I said, self-contained story. So this isn't a super complex story at all. You can wrap your head around it pretty easily. It's not making too many callbacks to any like super complex things and using those. It's more or less referencing them. And then if you are a reader who's read these things in Kamen America, because that's really the only time you see the little asterisk. It's mentioned like the web series, and to mention the web series, and then to mention I think volume 1 and 2 when it mentions landscape. But this art, like I said, it's perfectly serviceable, but it's not the best art. You know, you see like some of the faces could definitely be drawn a little bit better. The way this hand is placed could definitely look a little bit more naturalistic, but most of the art serves the reader well. Like I said, the lettering looks absolutely fantastic, and especially, you know, these onomatopoeia scenes like these and everything certainly has a nice reading experience. So it's not a bother to read through this book. It all feels very natural and easy to read, and it's got plenty of, like I said, it's got action, it's got drama, and it's got a very nice resolution. So this is definitely not a story that's being told in a way that's super complex or absolutely changing anything. So if you want a unique story, if you want a superhero comic that hasn't been done before, you're not going to find it in this book, but you definitely are going to find a nice experience in Tomorrow Girl versus Kamen America. You're definitely going to get a good, fun, lighthearted story that has stakes, but resolves pretty quickly. So it doesn't ever feel like super dark and gloomy and like everything's going to end. It definitely has that classic superhero feel where they are in trouble. You know they're going to hurt a little bit, but it all gets resolved in the end because the good guys win and the bad guys lose. So it's not doing anything super unique narratively. It's not doing anything super unique artistically. It's taking I would say, the art form of comics that has existed for decades and decades, and using the refined aspects of that art form to tell a good, decent story that will leave you satisfied. Because like I said, it has a beginning, middle, and end. It it ties up what it establishes quite well, and it has a nice setup for the second volume that I know exists of this book. And of course, if you are a fan of either of these characters, then it's nice to see them in a crossover. Especially as a fan of Kamen America, it's nice to see Carly act the way she does in the mainline series. So her character is definitely on point. So Ben Dunn and Alfred Perez did a really good job at staying true to the character of Kamen America in using her in this crossover. And I think these characters, they're definitely compatible in the story, even if they aren't perfectly compatible personality-wise in the story itself. But that's part of the charm of the story, is that Carly's got a very specific way, or she's got, I would say, more of a childish sense of social cues than other people, and that gets her into trouble, but it also makes her a very endearing character, one that readers have been very attached to, and she's absolutely like that in this book, which is what makes this book really endearing to read as a fan of Kamen America, like I said, because they remained true to her character in terms of how her design is presented and in terms how she is written in the story. She acts in the way that you think she would if you're familiar with Carly. And that's really all you can ask for in a crossover, is that you stay true to the characters that you are using. But that is all I have for Tomorrow Girl versus Kamen America. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review, and Joker is out.